Greetings, sports fans, ASMR Sports back in your business. Just today's quick public service announcement that I have a brand new Pokemon ASMR channel called Poke Relaxing, and you should go check that out. I think there should be a link in the description for this video. So my latest video opened a bunch of these packs, which is the hot new Pokemon set. So if you love Pokemon or you're interested in learning more about Pokemon and you want to hear some softly spoken ASMR content, please. Whoops, sorry. Please do roll on over there and subscribe. All right, folks. Today, I've been. Boy, it's getting awful crammed down here in the card dungeon, folks. I got lots of stuff. I'm in a real buying mode in the last, I don't know, 3-4 months. And primarily that's Pokemon stuff, which tends to be very voluminous because it's relatively cheap compared to sports cards. And, some of their products take up a lot of space, which is less than ideal, but I am trying to kind of get loaded up on stuff here before the market takes off on a lot of it. So I am running out of room, and I've got just tables full of boxes on boxes and boxes, and I don't know, I need to figure that out. Basically, I have some storage elsewhere that I can bring stuff to, and I probably need to just kind of move stuff around between the card dungeon and that storage facility, so hopefully I can do that sometime before the end of the year. In the meantime, I'm sort of looking around and reminding myself all the sort of bits and bobs I have of stuff all over the place. And once upon a time I bought a bunch of these small little sets of baseball cards. Actually, I have some non-baseball cards too, but mostly baseball. And the intention was to kind of open these bad boys up and look through the cards. So that's what we are going to do. I am pretty sure this will not be factory sealed. If it is, I might leave it alone to try and sell it as factory sealed, but if it is not factory sealed, I will be going through the cards and exploring them with you. If it is factory sealed, then I'll go on to the next one, which I know is not factory sealed because they did not make that product factory. And these actually, I think they came with this whole thing shrink wrapped. So I think that was the sealing. I don't think there's going to be sealing inside the cards, hence I'm going to give it a go here. I think the last time I did one of these sets, it was an 87 Topps update set. Yeah, so no sealing whatsoever in there. These two look fairly fresh. The fact that this comes in a tin, because most of these were not in a tin. They were just in a cardboard box, and if they're in a tin, that means these are basically a premium set, which means the cards should be glossy. All the cards are glossy, and those cards do carry a premium over, their non-glossy counterparts, although there's not a whole lot in the set that's particularly valuable, so mostly it's a fun trip down memory lane. I do see the gloss on the card there. You can see it too. See that glossy gloss? Yeah, so that's very different then. a regular 87 Fleer card. So you get, I think, a full set of stickers in one of these bad boys. These stickers are not glossy, of course. I was waiting for the Yankee sticker, but maybe this is not a full set of stickers. Yeah, because I feel like there's a bunch. There's a bunch of teams missing. So, I mean, I do see the Yankees in a little sticker, so it could be that this is a full set. And some teams only got little stickers, and while others got big. I don't know. All right, let's do it. So there's a checklist. We won't go into that, so that everything's kind of a surprise. There's Matt Young. Let's see what that's going to be. Yeah, so that's card 131, which I think is the last card in the set. So these, so these are in kind of reverse order. So the checklist is the last card in set. This is the second last card in set. And we'll hit the first card, card number 1, at the end. Alright, so here we go. First card that would have been pretty friggin' awesome back in 87, but more like 88, 89, because this guy, Matt Williams, was popping off at that time. He actually wasn't. I feel like in 87, he didn't do much, but then like 88, 89, and maybe 90, the Giants were a very good team, and they had a bunch of young guys like Will Clark and this guy Matt Williams, who were very loved by the hobby. And his cards, his rookie cards, were not in any sets, any main releases, Donruss Topps Fleer, until 1988. So this 87 card was a true, sort of pre-rookie card. XRC, extended rookie card, as they would have called it back in the day, and that's kind of special. Sometimes what you have back in the 80s is a situation where, one, like this happened in 86, right? In 86, there was a bunch of rookies that made it into 86 Donruss. Jose Canseco being the main one, and he was actually also in Fleer, but he had no card in the Topps base set, so he had to wait for the update, Topps update, to get a Jose Canseco Topps card from 1986. So in that case, everybody was just looking for the Donruss card or the Fleer card, and nobody really cared about that Topps card. In this case, there's nobody that made an 87 card of Matt Williams, so the fact that he's in the extended set made this card particularly desirable. This is also true of guys like, I'm thinking of the 84 sets where, back before 86, I feel like none of the card companies were particularly, good at getting the early rookies into their products, so they all kind of had the same, rookies in them. So this would happen more where you have guys that you had to get the extended card to get their first cards. And I'm thinking of the 84, Fleer set that had, these XRCs, pre-rookie cards of Kirby Puckett, Roger Clemens, there's another big name, I think Dwight Gooden. You would not get those cards from any of the major brands until 85. So that made the 84, extended cards really valuable and desirable, and still to this day those are very valuable, and, doesn't help that they underprinted that set. So in any event, little history, sports card history. There's Ken Williams, Frank Williams. So Matt Williams probably would have been one of the best cards in this set, in the year or two after this came out. Devin White was a guy who had cards in 87. He was, I believe, in the regular 87 Fleer set in those those cards that had like 2 players on them, 2 rookies. So this was probably, a reflection of the fact that he was a promising rookie, so he needed a card where he was by himself. That would have been a pretty solid one to have, but, not like the Matt Williams where you could find him in the regular set from this year. And there'll be a bunch of similar guys like that where I feel like they just put a card in here because they were big names. Danny Tartabull was pretty solid back then, but he had cards all the way back from 85. He was in 85 Donruss. Greg Swindell. BJ Surhoff was a good rookie in 87, but he had plenty of 87, regular set cards in other sets. Jim Sundberg. These cards are pretty notorious for being off-center left to right, and I noticed that most of these cards are pretty wildly off-center. But if you get one that's centered, you're doing well. There's Kevin Seitzer, the most off-centered apparently, but he was a guy, he also had a 87 rookie in Fleer, where it was a 2-guy, 2 rookies. That's how Fleer did a bunch of their rookies. I think those were actually the better rookies too, so like it's kind of crazy that if you were a good rookie, you got a card where you shared it with another guy who probably was going to suck. But that's how Fleer did it from 1985 onward. They did that in 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, and 90. But they still had plenty of rookies in their base set that were not on those cards, but those were sometimes the lesser rookies, so it's kind of weird. Dave Schmidt, Mark Salas, off the Twins there. That's a traded player card. Rick Rhoden, Gary Reedus. Luis Polonia was a Yankee at one point. Tony Pena coming over from the Pirates. Paul O'Neill. Paul O'Neill. I'm trying to think why he would be in this set. I mean, I think it's just a young player that was, a pretty solid rookie, so they decided to make a card of him. But he has once again, he's on a 2-player rookie card in the 86 Fleer set the year before this. And he did not have a card in 86 update, so now they put him in 87 update. Kind of weird, but then he didn't change teams or anything. He was with the Reds during all that time. Matt Noakes would have been a pretty sweet card. This is a guy who, again, he was not in the 87 regular sets, but he was a highly touted rookie in 88. So have an 87 card of him was pretty sweet. And that definitely would have had, a few bucks worth of value back in 87. He was one of the top rookies that people were looking for in this time frame. Randy Myers was not terrible, but this one was a weird one. I remember even at the time people were like, that's weird. Why does he have 2 photos? Why is the only player that has 2 photos on their card? It's almost like, I don't know, they were experimenting with designs, and they ultimately did not go with this design, but somehow this card snuck through. Kind of weird. Now he's in the set because he started with the Mets, but then got traded to the, oh, I see why he has 2. Because he actually traded teams twice. He was with the Padres for a little bit, and then went to the Giants, and I guess they didn't want to pick, so they put him with both. Okay, that's funny. For some reason, I never really realized that until just now, but I think he's with the Padres for like just a minute, and then spent quite a few years with the Giants, and this guy was, man, he was something else back in 87, 88, 89. He was like a perennial home run leader in the National League. He was hitting like 50 home runs a couple years in a row, if I recall. And his stuff was just popping off, just going nuts. So that card was probably pretty valuable back in like in 88, 89 when he was, Mark McGuire. Again, you know, he had cards. Well, Mark McGuire's a weird case because he had that Topps Team USA card back in '85, which, you know, was the earliest card of him by 3 years. But then in '87, of course, he popped off for that huge rookie season of his. And he actually did not have a card in the regular '87 Fleer set. But he did have a card in '87 Donruss. And he did have a card in '87 Topps, which is kind of crazy. So they had to get him in this set. Yeah, wow. Really brings me back thinking of a time when this card was super valuable. And there was actually like 2 times, right? Like Mark McGuire, you know, had that huge rookie year in '87. And his stuff was definitely, you know, desirable and valuable. But then kind of, you know, just sort of turned into a solid power hitter for a while. And then in the, when was that? Was that like the late 90s? Like, yeah, 98, 99. You know, he basically started doing steroids and all of a sudden was hitting, you know, 70 home runs a year. And he and Sosa were in the big home run battle. And then his cards really popped off. So there's a Hall of Famer, Fred McGriff. He did have a rookie card in the regular '86 Fleer set. He was a rated rookie in that set. And again, another example of I'm not sure why, you know, other than he's a promising young player, why they would put him in this set. But I guess they just sort of did that to make the set more attractive, you know, at the time to collectors, and you know, no harm in that. So this is probably the best card in the set because, you know, this is a rookie card. Greg Maddux was in '87 Donruss regular set, but did not have Topps or Fleer rookies until these update sets came out. And yeah, I mean, the fact that this is actually not terribly off-center, it's definitely not perfect, but it might be a PSA 9. The fact that this is you know, in the premium, the glossy set, and the corners look pretty solid, you know, which is nice. I'm not sure if I want to leave this in here or what I want to do with these. I might just, I don't know. It's hard to sell sets like this once they're unsealed because people just don't want to trust that you haven't cherry-picked them, which is, you know, pretty valid concern. But I don't know. So I'm tempted to just take that card out and put it away and, you know, throw the rest of these things away. Maybe I would pull out the McGuire. And I'm 90% sure there's a Canseco in here too. But I might be misremembering. I think Canseco probably was in the regular set. That's kind of a cool card because it's like one of the last cards of Reggie Jackson. Basically retired after the '87 season, I believe. And I don't know if this stint with the A's was just kind of like a sort of a reunion tour. You know, he came up with the A's back in the late '60s, and you know, I think they wanted him back in the jersey for posterity, but I don't think he played much with them. But he is one of several Hall of Famers that made it in here because of the, you know, traded status, the changing of teams. And we should see a few more here before they hit the end there. That would have been a sweet card back in the day. Mike Greenwell, '87 was the first year to get his cards. He was in '87 Donruss, man. That has like something on it, weird. Yeah, you can see that mark. Anyways, he was very good for a short run of years. So Eckersley is another Hall of Famer who changed teams to get into this set. Yes, I'm saying he actually changed teams just to get into the '87 Fleer update set. That's right. That's right, you heard me. So here's another Hall of Famer that changed teams. Andre Dawson from the Expos to the Cubs. Kind of crazy because, I always think of Dawson, as a Cub, but he wasn't really with them for that long. But basically, from 87 onward, which is essentially when I collected cards as a kid, he was, Mr. Cub. And I had no exposure to him when he was playing these many, many years with the Expos. But he had a much longer career with the Expos than with any other team. He would be with quite a few teams after the Cubs. But he is a Hall of Famer, so that's cool to have his card in here. And Steve Carlton is, I think, the last guy that I'm thinking of who has, a card in here because he changed teams. This was at the end of his career when he was just really not, I think, that effective, but, an incredible career, and he was a very, very good pitcher in the height of his career. So that's another thing where, like, I always thought of him as just, kind of an old guy pitcher who was hanging on, because that's really all I got to experience as a fan, in this era. But you go back 10, 15 years and you've got a very dominant young pitcher with an incredible career there that I never had really any exposure to, so I just have to, kind of rely on the history books to get a sense of Steve Carlton. Alright, well, there is the 87 update set in the premium version. Pretty cool, but again, the Maddox probably the only card in there with any kind of value. And the value is probably just a couple of bucks, unless it's graded, maybe a PSA 9 would be a $10 card. But not worth the cost of grading. So yeah, I'll have to figure out what I want to do that. If anybody wants to buy a complete set, you let me know. I'll give you a great deal on that. Looks like I paid $3 for it, so I would happily sell that for $3 to anybody who wanted it, and that's actually a pretty good deal. I think the Maddox is worth that. Alright, so let's get into the second set here, which is 88 Topps. Now, if I recall, this was the first year that Topps started doing USA Baseball players in these traded sets, and I think they did that all the way through like maybe 92 or 93, and then I think they stopped with it. But back in 88 and 89 and 90, I remember these cards were very desirable, the USA players. There were a couple of good guys that you could get from that set, and people were, kind of stoked to get cards that early of players because, if they're playing on the USA Baseball team, they're basically college or just out of college players, and they would not be appearing in the majors for, many years. Well, not many, but maybe like at least 2 years, but probably more likely 3 or 4 years. And so, well, there you go, Ted Wood. So to get a card this early, again, this is before, Bowman made cards of every, draftee. Well, before they ever hit the bigs, and before, a lot of manufacturers started just doing like prospect cards of guys like Jeter, when they were drafted in 92 or 93, which would be, well before those guys made their debuts. So yeah, it's kind of a big deal. All right, Mike Fiore. All right, Jack McDowell, Blackjack. It's actually pretty nicely centered. Left to right, anyways. Top to bottom, a little bit off. But pretty cool looking card. These cards are so weird. They have a different stock, different cardboard than the regular 88 Topps, and the backs are brighter, but they feel like, I don't know, a little bit thinner, maybe. if memory serves, the big USA card out of here was Tino Martinez. All right, there's Roberto Kelly, who back in '88 was definitely, I was a big Yankee fan then, of course, and was definitely loving Roberto Kelly. He had quite a few '88 cards. I think he was in the regular issue '88 Fleer and '88 Donruss sets. So this was just Topps' attempt to get him into an '88 card. I would have loved to have had that because, I don't know, I didn't have, sometimes at the local card shop where I live, or that was the local card shop, now it's gone, sometimes, when these traded sets came out, they would open up some of them and then sell the singles, and you'd have a chance to buy them, but they'd only do that for like one or two of them. So if you didn't get there relatively early, you probably weren't going to get the guys you wanted. And really none of my friends, very rarely would one of my friends who I traded cards with buy one of these sets, and if they did, they probably didn't want to, just like pull one card out of it and trade it to you. So they just kept the set, whole. So you didn't have, as a kid, much of a chance to get these. There's no eBay to go and to buy them off of, and I guess you could go to a card show and look for them, but I don't think many people broke open these sets to sell singles either, so it was kind of hard to find these, and it was kind of awesome if you got one. Alright, so there's Robin Ventura, probably one of the top 3 guys in here, in the USA set. He was a big deal, a high draft pick after this, but he actually had a draft pick card in 1989 Topps. And that was sort of the beginning of, Topps starting to put draft picks, so they had the USA cards in these traded sets, they had the draft pick cards in their regular issue, and they were really starting to, kind of attack, the chance to get players into their products much earlier than they had been, prior to this '88 stuff. So Andy Bennis, he was another top pick in the draft. Jim Campanis, Ed Sprague, Mike Schooler, Tommy Bernansky, former Minnesota Twin, Scott Madison. There you go. So Tino off center. Probably, Robin Ventura had an okay career. He definitely was around for quite a long time, but Tino Martinez, I think, had a much better career and the best career out of anybody in this USA set. Jim Poole, Jeff Branson, Sil Campusano, sorry. Mickey Dalton had actually a spurt of home run prowess at one point in his career. Yeah, I'm trying to think when that happened. I thought it was when he was with the A's, but apparently it wasn't, because that was, all happened before this trade to the Orioles. But head coach Mark Marquez, Ron Kittle, Bill Massey, Frank Robinson, Hall of Famer. Maybe he's the best card in this. Brett Barbary, Mickey Morandini. I remember these guys were both like semi-decent prospects. So was Charles Nagy. I think he was a first-round draft pick. Ty Griffin, Chris Sabo. Everybody remembers Chris Sabo back in '88. Everybody wanted his cards. Jay Buhner. So Jim Abbott actually had a very good career. Through a perfect game with the Yankees. And was around for quite a number of years, despite having only one hand. And learning to adapt his game to be able to field pitches or field batted balls with just one hand. Pat Combs, those USA cards, I think, were the main draw. And there was really not much else. I mean, Ron Gant, again, this is a set where Topps is kind of making up ground because Ron Gant had a base, you know, a card in the regular 88 Donruss set. So not many people were going to chase this, you know, card. So Roberto Alomar, I think at the time was, you know, a semi-respected prospect. These days might be one of the better cards in here. But yeah, not a whole lot in here. The 87 set definitely had a lot more stuff that I feel like. So Mark Grace, again, another, you know, good name back in 88, but he had an 88 Donruss card, he had an 88 Fleer card, so people were not going to be really chasing this, and it wasn't going to have a tremendous amount of value compared to, like, if this were an 87 card. So I'm trying to think if there's any real, you know, solid rookies in this stuff. Judging by 88 standards in 1988, I really don't think there was. I mean, there's a bunch of guys you could get in other sets well before this came out, because again, this came out like well after all the other 88 sets were out, so like people weren't really stoked about getting a rookie that they had to wait 6 months for. Actually, I feel like it was longer than that. I feel like Topps generally came out at the beginning of the year. I feel like I always remember, like, at Christmas time, having, like, in Christmas of, like, 86, having the 87 cards, but I might be totally hallucinating. I sort of feel like that's the way it was, but I kind of, like, don't think that could be true, that they would have the 87 cards out in 86. That would be a little too early, although it would explain why Topps is always so behind on rookies. I don't know. So, alright. Alright, sorry, I had to sneeze there. I hope you appreciate the little walk down memory lane. That was fun to see all those cards and kind of remember, you know, when these came out. They were a lot cooler than they are now to collectors, I'll tell you that much. And as a young kid collecting cards around, you know, in 1987 and 88, I would have loved to have either of these sets, but, you know, they were probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 bucks back then, and that was like as much as, you know, some full, like, 36 count wax pack boxes. There's no way I was going to spend that kind of money. Not that I even really had it, but maybe I traded for it or something at a card show. That's how I got most of my unopened stuff back then. Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch y'all next time. You have a great one.